When I came here in 1984, actually the first time I was ever in Fort Lauderdale was 1979 when I came down to spend Christmas. You have to understand that what happened in metropolitan areas and in some mid-sized cities that happened in Muncie with white flight came the advent of the malls, because when white flight took white money and white people out of the mid and inner city, they didn't want to travel back in to have to shop. So they built malls, and malls became the key point that disintegrated downtown areas and left the blight that you saw, where there were either vacant buildings or lots where things had been bulldozed. And that's what happened in Fort Lauderdale. Now suddenly, after about 40 years, Re-Gentrification comes along with the advent of the cost of travel, coming from the suburbs back into the city, because a lot of jobs still remain within the urban area, and whites had to travel back in. Suddenly they realized they had given up a prime location. Re-gentrification began, and suddenly the displacement of poor blacks and whites, Hispanics, started to happen as people moved back into the city, refurbished or built new condos, new homes, and that is why the city of Fort Lauderdale wanted to get their hands on Sistrunk Boulevard. Sistrunk is a thoroughfare that runs east and west through Fort Lauderdale. It is a wide boulevard. There's a lot of potential for it. They don't intend for that potential to serve the historical black community. They wanted that to move back in for re-gentrification. If you were black and you had money to live there, that would be fine. But that has not been the history of what has happened in Broward County, in particular during re-gentrification. Blacks have been displaced because most of them didn't even own the homes or apartments, obviously, that they lived in, and they've been moved out because those areas have been either rezoned, torn down. They've gone from apartments to condos, and it's a great big dilemma.
Well, and I believe that's why they have been so willing to bulldoze. When I went through the Sistrunk area, there are as many vacant lots as there are blighted buildings, and so that willingness to bulldoze is the whole idea behind that. Is when we rebuild, if we get rid of the people or things or businesses that are in these rundown buildings, when they do rebuild, we can rebuild them with the idea of moving affluent people in.
Mm-hmm. And the question I have asked ever since this re-gentrification started in the mid-'90s in Fort Lauderdale and in Wilton Manor, in the different areas, because it started about 95 and 96. I said, well, this is just great. Where do black people go from here? You moved out west because you didn't want to live around them. Now you want to come back. They can't go out west because the property value is still too high. Where do they go?
And there's still no transit out west.
And where do they go? Where do they go to live? No one I've ever asked that question can answer it.